What phobia have you managed to overcome, and how did you do it? Needles. A couple weeks stint in the hospital when I was like 12 left me with a nasty fear of needles, so to overcome it I took up regular blood donations as an adult. I think being in control, being able to call it off any time I wanted, went a long way toward taming that fear. I beat mine with a video game. I used to have very severe thalassophobia, fear of the deep dark ocean. Then I started playing Subnautica over and over and over. At first the game triggered all my thalassophic fears so much I had to actually stop playing for days at a time. High heart rate, panic attacks, the same effects as actually being out on the ocean. After years of playing it, it desensitized me to the point that I've actually been able to go out on a boat deep sea fishing. Graphophobia. One day I'm able to write, the next. I was bitten by a brown recluse when I was 4 or 5 years old. It left a small crater in my leg that I still have. I never saw the spider, but that's what the doctor told my mom. I don't know if that bite caused my deep fear of spiders, but up until 5 years ago I would freak out on the tiniest of spiders, and man, don't show me a tarantula or wolf spider or I'll have a cardiac. Well, I quit drinking 6 years ago and was in therapy for 4 years to help me with the traumas I was reacting to by abusing alcohol. We did several sessions of EMDR and I had substantial results. What I think happened as a byproduct was my fear of spiders vanished, or nearly so. I noticed at some point a jumping spider was on my arm and I felt love for it. I experienced a spider bro moment. It happened that any subsequent spider I encountered did not trigger the fear. I won't say I am completely free of it because some things are just creepy whether being a spider or not, but I am grateful to have friends with 8 legs now. Spiders, wasps, insects in general. Did a lot of acid when I was younger and realized they are sentient souls just like us and that I was once incarnated as an insect. And that we are all the same source consciousness in different circumstances and bodies. Fear of small spaces. I'm not over it, no one really ever is, but at least when I get in an elevator I don't feel like I'm being smothered. I don't scream my head off, I don't try and pull the doors open while screaming my head off. Claustrophobia. Didn't really overcome it, I just know I have to deal with it sometimes. Have to get an MRI? Ask doctor for Valium. Have to fly? Focus on what's in front of you, instead of the fact that you're basically trapped in an enclosed space. I used to get scared of being physical pain. How I got over it? I accidentally broke my arm in 2 places and it didn't hurt that bad. I also realized I have a high pain tolerance, so that makes me feel like I'll be fine no matter what. Nyctophobia, fear of the dark. Turns out you can lose a phobia by gaining a brand new one, so I basically traded that for agoraphobia, essentially the fear of being unable to escape panic-inducing environments and/or situations. Heights and needles. Claustrophobia remains, but only the kind where all sides of a box or cave have to be touching me at the same time. I overcame needles logically. Put it into context with other worse things I've endured without complaint. I also compared it with sewing needles, which I was never afraid of and had been stabbed with frequently. Heights was immersion. There was a theme park ride that basically put you in a basket and did a free fall of 100 feet or so. I just went on it again and again and again until it was fun. In both cases it helped to keep my brain focused on outside stuff or reminding myself why none of it was really that big a deal. Immersion was much faster. A spider moved into my room. Some years ago I would have freaked out. Today I watched them make a web and bundle up a mosquito and went victory hand, thanks roommate. Agoraphobia. I did a course of therapy for PTSD, but I had become so scared of everything I stopped leaving the house. We had to do exposure therapy for several weeks as a group, building up from going on a short outside walk, to getting in a taxi, then going to shops and cafes. It was really hard at first and you would always have a therapist with you. But then after about 10 weeks I was able to do a lot of it myself. Even got back on public transportation again. I used to be arachnophobic. When my daughter was born I didn't want to spread that fear to her, so I just started pretending spiders weren't scary. Basically a fake it till you make it scenario. Sometimes I still really can't deal with spiders, but overall I would say I'm not technically arachnophobic anymore. I even kind of like jumping spiders. Flying. I recognized that my fear wasn't actually about flying, but my lack of control. I didn't worry when my friends or family were flying, so I didn't really believe it was unsafe. I just wasn't in control. So the next time I got on a plane, I imagined an issue with the flight, and that I would be asked to take control of the plane. And decided right then that I would rather leave the trained and experienced crew in control of the flight. Lessened my anxiety considerably. I haven't actually fully let go of the phobia, but my phobia of throwing up left after I personified and drew the phobia as something. It was a recommendation from my therapist and it really helped. Flying. I had to take a Valium the first few flights to get over the anxiety, but after flying a few more times and getting used to it, I'm good now. Fear of answering this question. I just powered through it. Driving on the highway. Had horrible panic attacks. 5 or 6 years ago I realized I could drive to college and get out of my small town or live at home until I'm 40. I chose to drive and it worked out really well. I still get nervous, but I'm so glad I did it. My two biggest fears are needles and swimming in large bodies of water. I still get shots/blood drawn and I regularly swim in lakes and even the ocean sometimes. I'm terrified the entire time, I just force myself to do it and stay calm. Fear of needles. I had to learn to do phlebotomy for my job. So now, I've gone from passing out having routine blood work done, to letting my co-workers practice on me, and even donating blood. Spiders. I used to be terrified of spiders because I had one crawl up my nose when I was little. I wanted to overcome that fear, so I started doing my research on them and just learned more about them. The more I learned and understood them, the less they scared me. Arachnophobia, for the most part. I don't want my son to be terrified of spiders, so I pretend they don't bother me. Tarantulas can still fuck off, though. Triophobia, mainly part of my OCD, but I've learned to just deal with it better, I guess, on my own. Needles. I was afraid of getting blood work and flu jabs, and every time needle was mentioned at hospital I would run away, but because of COVID I had to take the vaccine, so I had to ask the nurse or doctor not to show me the needle, and I turned away and held the nurse's hand and I did it. I overcame it, and since I've had a flu jab and booster shots for COVID. Not too sure about blood tests though because they hurt more. Trypophobia. Yes, This is real. But it's more of a disgust than a fear. Exposure helped me overcome this.